Welcome to the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. We feature destination races from across the country. And after the race, we take you on a tour of the best local food and beverage to celebrate. So whether you are an elite runner or a back of the packer like us, you'll know the best places to accomplish, explore, and indulge on your next runcation. Hey everybody, welcome to the Run, Eat, Drink podcast, and this is a quick bite. Quick bite number 75.
A much more snack-sized version of the podcast, but we're just going to talk about one thing today.
Hence the whole name, Quick Bite.
Quick Bite. And today's Quick Bite is going to be about a drink location.
Yes. Well, I mean, they had, a little bit to eat that we can talk about too.
Okay. Well, we're only going to be talking about one place today.
It is a flashback. And when we do quick bites, we had so many things in a certain town or around a certain race that we just couldn't fit it all in one episode. So we release quick bites so that we can still let you know about places to, after you accomplish, explore, and indulge.
Yeah, and every episode can't be something you listen to on that half marathon run. Sometimes you just need a little something for a quick training run, and that's what today is all about.
Yeah, you're doing some speed work, you're doing some drills, something like that.
And today we are flashing back to our trip to Huntsville, Alabama, just a few weeks ago.
Because who knew?
Like we said, who knew that the food and drink scene was so fantastic
there
in Huntsville? And it really is. And in your time exploring the downtown area, you stumbled on a really cool brewery called Green Bus Brewing.
Yes, the first day you were in class, it was my mission to scout out places to run, eat, and drink. And Green Bus Brewing, wow, it looks like, I don't know, like it's out of a little colonial town out front. And inside there's brick, and it's a split level, and wood floors, and the bar is really gorgeous.
Yeah, they reclaimed an old law office and converted that into the brewery, and I believe all the brewing is upstairs.
All the brewing takes place upstairs, and it looks like there's a little meeting area, or they could do that space for parties and events, I guess. Mm-hmm. Small things like that. And I like that on the second level when you're there, because I went upstairs to look at it a little bit. They have the front of a VW bus
sticking out of the wall.
Sticking out of the wall, which is, it's Green Bus Brewing.
And it happens to be green.
Yeah, and it was so cute. It was so cute.
So aside from the aesthetic of the place, the folks there at Green Bus are doing a variety of beers.
Yeah, and not just beers either.
No, they also had meads.
Yeah, and ciders. So they had two different ciders and 3 different meads.
The day that we were there.
Yes. Who knows what they've got now, but I'm sure it's a mixture of beer, cider, and mead. And it was all original stuff. Yeah.
That was, I don't recall them having any guest taps.
No.
So they do a lot of brewing. And I think that they said that they are just doing their own internal stuff and maybe a little bit of local distribution there in the Huntsville area. So this is not going to be stuff that you can find at your ABC or Total Wine or local package store if you're not in the area.
And that makes me sad because they did have some delicious offerings.
They really did.
And I had a flight of beer.
So did I.
And do you want me to go first?
Why don't you go first?
Woohoo,
well, we're going to share with you the beers that we had from our respective flights, and then we've got one of their food offerings to bring to you today. So,
yes, we did sample their ciders and their meads, and they're tasty as well.
Tasty, but they weren't part of your flight, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing I had on my flight was a Tiramisu milk stout.
Ooh, I did that one as well.
Milk stout. You did that one?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, we overlapped.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay. So apparently, according to their board, their chalkboard, this comes in at 5.5% ABV, and it looks really dark. When you hold it up to the light, it's not really see-through. at all.
I don't recall it letting any light through at all.
No.
It was very dark.
No, very dark. It had a lighter body, mild carbonation, and I don't really get the dessert flavor, to be totally honest with you. That it was a great milk stout, but when I think of tiramisu, I think of coffee espresso flavor, lady fingers, and that creamy
the mascarpone
chocolate topped with the chocolate shavings, like, a la, I don't know, Olive Garden.
Oh, I thought you would default to something like one of our local favorites here, like Fabio's.
Yes, Fabio's is the best I've ever had. It's the best I've ever had.
We'll be featuring them on an upcoming episode. It's a local family-owned Italian place here in Southwest Florida that is to die for.
Oh, my God. And as we get higher in mileage, we're going to need to carb up with them.
But, okay.
But anyway,
I'm laughing.
Tiramisu.
I'm laughing internally because I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm looking at the notes I took, and I think it's almost like we cheated off each other because...
I didn't look at your paper. I did not cheat over your shoulder.
No, because I say it's very dark. Mild natural carbonation, good notes of toasted malt and coffee, not especially, and I put tiramisu in quotes in flavor.
No, like dessert.
So what I don't think that they added any artificial flavorings to the beer after the fact, which I really appreciate. I love a good milk stout. In fact, today's podcasting juice is a milk stout.
You're having a milk stout.
That is quite tasty, but I love a good milk stout. The natural sweetness that you get from the lactose and the fermentation, I think, is just a really nice option. So I guess that's kind of what they were going for, was the natural coffee flavors, the toasted malt. It
wasn't really artificial in flavor, like you said. I just didn't get a whole dessert quality, and it wasn't really syrupy or thick.
No, and very drinkable.
Yeah.
I thought.
I would have it again.
Yes.
I would have it again in a flight. I would have it as
Would you do a whole pint?
I might have it as a pint, but I liked so many of their offerings that I don't know if that's the one I would pick if we were just there and I could only choose one to rule them all.
Fair enough. Okay, that was the first one, and we overlapped, so... What was your second one that you went with?
Oh, you're not going to go...
Well, I kind of jumped in on your tiramisu milk stout.
So you went, and now I'm going to... Okay, whatever. I can't do maybe I can do a British accent for this. I'm not sure.
We're not good at accents.
Twickenham. Yeah. London Porter.
Ooh.
Twickenham? Yeah.
I'm going to say Twickenham, just so that we can make it totally Americanized.
Twickenham London Porter. Yeah. No, it's I know, I can't do it right. 6.4 ABV. It is also another dark one, hence porter.
Yep.
And I thought it was really smooth, maybe even smoother than the milk stout.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was smoother, but not like nitro smooth. Somewhere in between.
Gotcha.
Somewhere in between. And I thought it had dark chocolate notes, not just milk chocolatey notes. It was a little bit bitter, medium carbonation, a dark body like the tiramisu, but maybe it was a little darker as I'm looking back at the picture. And I got coffee and chocolate, those dark chocolate notes.
I think a good porter done right is it almost blurs the line with a good stout.
Yeah.
And I mean, you typically have a lighter mouthfeel, lighter body, even if you have a darker color.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at that one and going, "Oh, that looks good."
I didn't let you try this one.
I don't know.
Oh, sad for you.
I was taking my notes on the tiramisu milk stout. I think
you were busy. You were busy. Yeah. So I liked it. Again, I don't think this is my favorite of the flight.
Okay.
But I really appreciated it, and I thought the dark chocolate notes were a little bit different and set it apart from the tiramisu, so they weren't repeating a whole lot of similar flavor
notes,
which was good. So there's variety, because sometimes when you have original beers and in the same family, they can repeat a lot of the same flavors, but I think it's the dark chocolate made it a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely get it again, and it was good.
Okay.
It was a good London porter, sir.
Well, I went with something a little bit different, a little lighter option. My next one is Green Bus's Dominant Red Ale.
Okay.
Or Dominant Red, which is a red ale. It is 6.7 ABV, so you're starting to climb a little bit there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd call that super sessionable, so you might
Maybe
want
not
to sip on this or make sure that you get some of their pub grub while you're doing that.
Yeah.
Very malty, which I love.
Yes.
I love a good malty ale. Notes of caramel. It was a beautiful, clear red color, mild carbonation. I would call it a medium body, and in my notes I took here said very drinkable. So it didn't have a lot of bitterness at the end that you'll get with a lot of like Irish Reds.
You can have that, yeah.
So this was just an excellent, easy to drink beer, and I think I likened it when we were there talking. I likened it to the Kentucky Ale.
Really? Yeah.
Remember? Not the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel, but the one that they put into the bourbon barrels there.
Yeah.
So super approachable beer, a little higher gravity. So, this is a great one with a meal, I think.
And I had it too in my flight.
Okay.
Of 4.
So
and I would
did
agree.
I go far afield in my notes?
No. I would agree with you. I said caramel, malty, medium carbonation. And when you hold it up to the light, you can kind of see the light come through a little bit. But I really loved the flavor. I loved the flavor. And
you're partial to red ales.
I am. It reminded me of Bury Me Brewing.
Oh yeah, Bury Me's another local brewery here in Southwest Florida. They do some fantastic
they did like a Scotch
stuff.
ale.
Yeah, their Scotch ale I think is even higher ABV though.
It might be, but I thought this was like that, tasted like that, and this is maybe my favorite of the whole entire flight I had. I would have a couple of these now.
Okay,
I really would, and I know that it's higher, 6.7. But
it's not the highest one that I had, but it's
not the highest one that I tried because man, their meads.
Oh, their meads are a whole different ballgame.
Holy cow, their meads. They have a spiced orange and an Earl Grey. The Earl Grey is 14%. Whoa!
Yeah, and that Earl Grey absolutely gives you that
tea flavor.
The flavor of an Earl Grey tea.
And the spiced orange was really orangey. It was really good, and it was 16.
Yeah, so those would get your attention.
Hello. Yeah. This was my favorite. The Dominant Red was my favorite of the whole flight that I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is another one of those where you just went by jumping on Dominant Red. So now back to me.
Yes, back to you.
Okay. The last beer the next beer in my list is the Downtown Julie Braun.
I love that name.
Yeah. And this is their brown ale.
Because she does 90s on 9 on that Sirius satellite radio.
Yes.
It's great. British accents.
Better than ours.
Yes.
And this one clocks in at 5.5% ABV. And this is a slightly cloudy brown ale, which gives you a hoppy finish. But it had, what I thought was interesting was kind of a little twinge of tartness at the beginning, which I thought was very different. And overall, a very light body. I would say this was one of my favorites that we tried, but not my favorite. I think I'm with you. The Dominant Red was probably my favorite for everything. But I like a good brown ale, a nut brown. This absolutely would be, again, great if you had a plate of chips, something, nice and salty. Yeah. This would pair great with something salty.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Your turn.
Well, the one I had would pair with something very salty as well. This last one that I had in my flight of 4, the Camper Van Blonde. The Camper Van Blonde, which was 6% ABV, and it was a darker golden yellow.
So this is a blonde ale.
A blonde ale. And it was just, you know how some of them are like really super light, almost like that crayon yellow.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a more golden.
Would you say, to borrow the phrase from our friends over at Women Drinking Beer podcast, Belle's dress?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. And maybe even a little darker. But it looked great. It was hoppy on the finish. Not hoppy up front, lighter carbonation, a golden color. It was a nice blonde ale.
Not real heavy?
Not real heavy.
Good.
And, I mean, like you said about a couple of the offerings that we've talked about, I mean, you define something sessionable as what? 4, 5.
Usually, I think a lot of breweries talk about their session IPAs or their sessionable beers being under 5% ABV. When you get over 4.7, that's when you start going, okay, no more than 2 at a sitting, at least for me.
Yeah. So
and when you start really climbing into some of these craft beers that are doing 8, 9, 10,
right?
I always go with the short pour and just take our time, and again, that's the whole reason why ride shares are really an assumed part of your evening if you're going out to a local brewery.
And what I liked when we visited the area is that this was in walking distance from our hotel, the AC Marriott there.
Yes,
that was it. It's nice.
Oh, very. Because
then you could walk there, and then you could have a couple and not worry about having to drive.
And all the places we've talked about our trip there were walking distance or no more than a 5-minute ride.
Oh, like Pints and Pixels.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's your blonde. That caps off your flight.
That does.
And I capped off my flight, of all things, with an IPA.
Why did you do that?
What I always try to do is say, what are you known for when we go to a particular brewery? What's your flagship beer? We try to squeeze one of those in if at all possible. And this was one that is front and center there, and it was their Hop Bus IPA, their India Pale Ale, 7.2% ABV, so it's the highest gravity beer of the group that I tried.
Ooh.
This is a New England style IPA, a little bit cloudy. I believe that it uses Citra, Simcoe, maybe some Amarillo or Mosaic hops as well. I'm not a huge IPA fan, but I am developing my palate. And I'm starting to like, especially the cloudier New England style IPAs more, especially when I see Citra hops.
Citra hops
I find that Citra hops and Galaxy hops, when I see those in the list, I'm more willing to try them. I
more
think
inclined.
Because those flavors, while they are bitter, they give you that bitter in the back of the throat. They tend to give you more like a grapefruit,
like that acid.
The citrus smell acid and taste, and it's not as piney. I think that's the part of IPAs I don't like, is the piney aspects of it.
Yeah.
Some people do. Great. I tend to go more for the citrus.
Well, so that's how I feel about mint chocolate. Yuck.
Yeah. Mint on its own, fine.
Chocolate on its own,
fine. Yeah, you're not a
mint
fan.
Chocolate, no. So I can relate for sure. So. All of this we had, plus they had beer cheese and chips.
Yeah,
nacho chips.
They didn't have a big menu as far as food goes.
No,
I think they had a couple of things that you could get for snacking.
Yeah,
but they made their own beer cheese there.
Yes, and surprisingly, like your last was the Hop Bus IPA.
Mm-hmm.
They made this with the Big Spring IPA.
Which I don't think I didn't have, and you didn't have.
We didn't have it, but I had the Camper Van Blonde, and they make it with not only that Big Spring IPA, but with the Camper Van Blonde as well.
Okay, so their beer cheese has both Camper Van Blonde and the Big Spring.
2 different original brews in their beer cheese.
Okay, I believe it.
And cheddar.
This was a beer cheese that they were literally making in small batches in crock pots.
Yep.
and it's fresh made. It's there. I mean, it was very much a neighborhood feel in there. And he's ladling out the beer cheese into the container. And by the way, the presentation was hysterical.
Yeah. I'm looking at the picture now.
Because the chips are not the star of the show. The chips are store-bought
nacho
round tortilla chips like you would get, but they serve it in the movie theater plastic
container that has the little well for the beer cheese to go into. Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things where it's more a little bit of nostalgia or a little bit of just kind of fun presentation.
Yeah.
But the beer cheese flavor was fantastic.
Spot on. I mean, I'm sure the IPA gave it a little bit of bitter, hoppy notes and that creamy cheddar, and then the blonde, the Camper Van blonde was just, I mean, it gave that kind of amber ale flavor to bring it all together.
Yeah, the Big Spring clocks in at 6.7 ABV. The Camper Van Blonde you said was or did you say 6? So I mean, they're making it with some pretty powerful flavor profile beers.
Yes.
And it was fantastic. We ate one and we're like, man, I could get another one, but we knew we were going somewhere else. So we controlled ourselves.
Well, I really wanted it.
But again, the fact that they're making it fresh.
It's yummy.
There every
day. In small batches. It's so good.
So if you're finding yourself in the area there in Huntsville, Alabama, in the downtown area by that awesome park,
show some love.
Head over to Green Bus Brewing and meet some of the locals, grab some delicious beers.
Dog friendly too.
Oh, there
were dogs there. It was great.
Inside.
Yes.
And just have a great time hanging out with cool people.
Yeah.
Drinking delicious beers and having some amazing beer cheese.
Great atmosphere, great beer cheese. Definitely go there. I'm so happy we flashed back to Green Bus Brewing. Yes, and we will link to them in our show notes. And they're a part of Huntsville's own craft beer trail.
So if you grab one of the craft beer trail maps and or passports, they're one of the places to stop to get your stamp. Mm-hmm. Absolutely worth heading over there.
Yeah, even if you're not doing the entire ale trail still.
The staff's great. The place is great. The food and beer is great. Just go.
I'm glad we flashed back. So for this little quick bite, number 75, I'm Amy.
And I'm Dana.
Don't forget to visit our website, runeatdrink.net, or shout us out on social media. We're at Run Eat Drink Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and Run Eat Drink Pod on Twitter. We'll talk to you soon.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. We're having a great second year thanks to your support. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Run, Eat, Drink Podcast. And on Twitter, we're at Run, Eat, Drink Pod. Visit our website at runeatdrink.net so you can click on the iTunes link and subscribe so you won't miss a minute where we accomplish, explore, and indulge. Come along with us. See you next time.